Welcome back to Stories and Conversations with Rahel. I know it's been a minute, but we are back. And I know you've seen on my social media me talking about purpose and trying to share what purpose is, but who better to speak about purpose than my guest today? So she will introduce herself and she will tell us who she is, some interesting things about her, and then she can tell us why she has put her voice in this particular topic, because I know it's very important. So welcome, Carol.
My name is Caroline Kim. I'm an author, a speaker. My background is I am a media practitioner, so communication is my space, and I'm so glad to be here. I'm very passionate about the subject of purpose, and I have been for a long time. And as I've grown older, become more exposed, being exposed to people also who speak a certain language. That is the language of purpose, the language of identity. I've come into a greater awareness of who I am, because at the end of the day, there is nothing that comes from without, really, and is that comes from without to make you really who you are. This is what I mean. We have a seed within us, and the only thing external parties and external situations come to do is to water the seed and to make it grow, so that we grow into the awareness of who we really are and why we're here. But nobody can make you something you're not, Rahel. They can only water it. Situations can only help to, create storms that cause you to want to arise, to become a better version of you. But you cannot become somebody else. And that's why you can say, I want to become Oprah. You're so much more better being Rahel than being Oprah, but you can learn from her. And the information that you get makes you better, makes your seed grow, So purpose is something that I'm very passionate about, because if we do not discover who we are, then we really waste life. You get to the end, and as you're heading towards the sunset years, you're like, what did I do with my life? And you feel like you only live 20%. What did you do with the other 80%? Nobody has to tell you. It's like, I know there was so much more to life. So the earlier you discover, the better. The earlier you do something with what you know now, the better. So if you discover it at 40, do something. If you discover it at 60, do something. If you discover at 20, do something.
And I mean, you've already gone into the topic, and I love that. And I know we've been talking about this particular topic for a while now, and it's also part of the women's community that I am building. So I want us to demystify it in such a simple way, because people normally think that purpose is this serious thing that you have to be serious about something, or you have to have, a certain face so that people can actually tell that you have purpose within you. But I don't think so, right? Purpose is very simple. So I want us to simplify it today, Carol. What would you say purpose is? And please make it as simple as you can for anyone to understand exactly what purpose is.
The reason why anything exists. Purpose is just the reason why anything exists. So everything has purpose. These lights here have a purpose. The camera has a purpose. The microphones have a purpose. It's just simply the reason why anything exists.
I love that. So the reason why everything exists. So as human beings, me and you, Rahel and Carol, we were created for something, right? We were not just dropped on the face of the earth and we were told to multiply. I know that's what it's in the Bible, but we were not just told to multiply, right? There are other things beyond that. So how does someone start identifying or knowing what their purpose is? Because you've said it's what you've been created to be. So where do you start? Do you read a book? Do you ask your parents? Do you ask God? Where do you start? Where does someone start?
I'd like to touch on something that you said before I answer your question, and that is multiplication. And I believe multiplication is not just about offsprings. Honestly, if you walk out your purpose, you're multiplying yourself. There's a certain fingerprint you live in me. I don't become Rahel, but there's something you will live in me that will change something about myself, because you will water something in me. I'll give an example. Think about someone like, for example, Miles Monroe. how many people have been impacted by, he multiplied himself, not just in his biological seed, but in his spiritual seed. He multiplied himself. He didn't produce other Miles Monroes, no, but the gift he had multiplied itself in people according to his purpose. So multiplication is not just, physical offspring. It's also about the spiritual offspring.
Wow.
What are you supposed to pour into nature? What are you supposed to pour into others? So when we say multiply and have dominion, it's not just make sure you have about 1,000 kids. It's not that, really. It is, what has God put in you for the sake of creation and for the sake of your generation? Have you multiplied yourself enough so that whatever you have left in that generation can be propagated forward and forward? And I'll give an example. I like referencing to the Bible. We talk about David up to date. And it's because of the investment he made in his generation. We read books that he wrote, and they inspire us. So he multiplied himself in a way that to date, there's a seed of David in every generation. And it's not a biological seed per se. So when we think about multiplication, it's important that we think beyond, I need to have 5 kids and 10 kids, and those are good. But it's also like, why am I really here? How many am I supposed to pour myself into so that they also become? So they don't feel to become because I didn't play my part. So when they get home, the reason why they achieved only 50% is because I didn't play my part. Because I was afraid, because I cared too much about my reputation and what people will think about me, because I didn't want to dare and say I didn't have enough resources. And I failed to see what else did God give me. Maybe right now I don't have $1 million, but what do I have? I have Rahel is a relationship. Money is not the only currency in our walk of purpose. There's so many other things and we don't utilize them, and then we create excuses as to why we're not multiplying. But God is like, if you take a step of faith, I'll back you up. But I need you to not look at everything from the context of this is how I thought it will happen. And be open-minded to adjust. Choose to see a solution, even when it looks like there's a wall.
Wow. I feel like just taking a pause there. Oh my gosh, that is deep. Oh Lord. Okay. Continue.
So, so the choice to walk out the journey of purpose is really that you have got to see ways also where there are no ways. Because you have to broaden your vision to see things from a different perspective. And now to answer your question, how do we identify purpose? All the things you mentioned are key. Because sometimes your parents can see something in you that you don't as yet see. They're like, this daughter, she's a lioness. You don't see it because you live with yourself. But your parents are looking at it as like, she has a boldness that's not normal. That means she has a pioneering spirit. And depending on their outlook towards what they think a woman should become, sometimes they push in that direction of, it's okay, you go do you. You're different, but you go do you. But sometimes they could misunderstand that and they'd be like, why can't you just calm down? Stop trying to become a man. And you're thinking, I can't. This is not something I've placed on myself. I was born with this thing. It is who I am. It's like you telling me to divorce myself. I can't. I live with myself. So there are many avenues that God uses to help us see who we are. Sometimes it's teachers in school. Sometimes it's parents. Sometimes it's books. Like I said, we are fed by many streams so that we can become. But like I said, it's never on the outside, it's always within. So it's only these bulbs coming to help us see better and better and better. So there could be that one book I read and it challenges me for all my life because it's that one book that made me really question a lot of things, that put me on the path to discovering who I was. For someone else, it could be a teacher in school who's like, I see you can become a doctor. And they push them in that direction. And even when they leave school, that seed remains. And they pursue medicine. And they become an outstanding medical practitioner. You see, so there are many avenues God uses to help us to see who we are. So I can't say it's a one-size-fits-all. One person read a book, one person attended a conference, another person had parents who are very particular and very intentional in wanting to see the gift in that child so that they can nurture it. So it's not really a one-size-fits-all. Another one, your parents are like, Keti Chini, you're a woman, stop, just relax, chill, and then you're like, no, I can't. So God uses something else or somebody else to help you see you're not crazy. He made you like that for a reason. Because, for example, women who are pioneers tend to be very aggressive, and they're easily misunderstood because they tend to seemingly exude a lot of masculine energy. And so when they're not placed in the right environment where someone can see that gift and decide to nurture it, they experience a lot of rejection and a lot of being told sit down. And then the problem is there's something in them that tells them this is not you. So when they try to become normal, then it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you're trying to divorce yourself and you can't.
Wow.
When certain environments won't work, God will place you in a different environment where someone else can see the gift and tell you, Rahel, that thing that you have, you're not crazy. It's for a purpose. You see that craziness that people don't understand? It is needed for your assignment. Because if you were too laid back, if you're too subdued, you will not accomplish that which God wants you to accomplish. So you have got to have that force so that you can go through walls. Because a pioneer creates paths where they don't exist. So you can't be laid back and be able to accomplish that which God has put in you. So you have to have that forceful personality that will create paths where they don't exist, so that others can walk through, in a more simpler way than you had to. You see?
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like you're preaching to me because that's me. Right? That's who I am. And I mean, I've gone through a lot and you know a bit of the story. So this is to all the women out there who feel they're different, right? You have this energy and people call it masculine energy, aggressive, boisterous and all that. There's something about you that is different. So I'm really glad that you've shared that. I'm really glad that you've shared that. So, I mean, just talking about this topic of purpose, because purpose is all about identity, right? It sort of carves or it becomes your identity. And men go through this a lot. I mean, both men and women, but men experience this more than women, I might say so, because the culture that we are in, especially African culture, and just actually generally all cultures believe that men should be a certain way, providers, protectors, and all that. And sometimes for men, their identity is money, the financial bit of it, or their financial essence, right? So if they are not earning a specific amount of money, or they are not able to meet a certain need, then they feel less than the man that they are. So what would you say about that in terms of getting into your identity? Obviously, you know your purpose and you're on that journey to find your purpose, because knowing your purpose is a process. It's not like a journey and then you get somewhere and you stop, right? It's almost like a continuous thing. Obviously, at some point you have a realization that this is it, but you'll still be on that journey. But I mean, this is a man who's here. He's gotten to a place where he needs to provide for his family and all that. So how would you talk, or how would you say in terms of identity that, you know, men should just embrace so that they don't feel like they need to either have sex with 5,000 women or, you know, do all these things that they do, drinking alcohol or being so macho, so that it sort of speaks into their identity. Yeah.
I like the word you used as you were finishing that sentence, identity. Why was the product called man, male man, made? Because man is male, female, you get. So why was the male man made? If you don't understand the manuscript, if you don't understand the manufacturer's manuscript, you will abuse yourself. Miles Monroe once said, when a thing is not understood, abuse is inevitable. So when I don't understand, for example, if I was a man, if I don't understand why, who I am as a man, before I am who I am as John, the likelihood of abusing myself is very high, because I will depend on society to define me. So I have to look for a deeper place of definition and not society. Society is just, you know, today it's you need money, you need women, and all these things are external influences apparently that are supposed to define you. And like we said, true definition has to come from within. So if you understand as a man, why did God make you? Did he make you for money? Did he make you for women? He didn't. He made you for dominion. First for intimacy with him, and then for dominion. So if you first identify the area in which you're supposed to be having dominion over, and then rest in that recognition and that realization, then you're at a safe place. Of course, if we allow certain voices over and over and over into, like if we allow certain voices to speak to us continually, they will affect how we view ourselves. So what happens? I guard what I listen to. And I guard what I watch, because I can't say, I know who I am, so I can watch anything and hear anything. No, all these things are becoming raw material that is affecting the person that I'm becoming. So it's either killing the seed or watering the seed. So I first have to know, who am I as a man according to the mind of the maker? So if I know God made me to have dominion over something, my first question is, what is that thing? So I know first I was made as a son of God. So that means I'm royalty. Then the second thing is, I was to have dominion over what? Then if I can know what that is, I put my focus on that. Because remember, in the story of creation in the Bible, the woman didn't show up before the man was told, this is what you're supposed to be having dominion over.
Wow.
And then when he knew what he was supposed to be having dominion over, here is a helper to help you. But now when you don't understand that, you don't even understand why women exist. You think they're just sex objects. They're not. They're supposed to be helpers. They can't help you if you don't have a certain sense of wanting to know what you're supposed to be having dominion over. They will abuse you. If they're not nice, they will abuse you. Because you don't know yourself. Because if you know yourself, you can also try, you set certain boundaries where there's a line people don't cross in abusing you. In terms of how much you give people access. That doesn't mean that you react to every person that has an opinion about you. But it means in terms of proximity to my life, if you're a certain caliber of a person, I will not allow you into my space. You get? If you're out there, it's fine. But into my closed space, no. You see, but if you know who you are, it also means many times you will determine the kind of woman who comes around you. You see, you will attract a certain kind of woman, and you will have the eye to know who can actually handle the kind of kingdom that you're called to have dominion over. You see? Yeah, so if we understand from the manufacturer's manual why we are here, even as a man, why did God make me as a man? First thing was dominion before a woman came into the picture. I may not know everything, but do I have a clue as to what I ought to be building? And now that at least I have a small clue, and I bring someone on board, for example, in the context of a wife or whatever, or a business partner, even as all this is unfolding, at least the seed is already laid. You can tell that woman, this is what I want to build. It's not yet 100% clear, but at least I can give you tidbits. Do I want to get into political leadership, for example? Do I want to build a media entity? Do I want to build businesses? Do I want to build a certain ministry that focuses maybe on building the boy child? You have a clue. You don't see everything, but it is enough for me to know the kind of man that you are, and maybe how I can come in and fit into your life. Or this is too much for me, let's just be friends.
I love the way you've put it. And even for women, right? The way God created you, God did not just create you to procreate. Right? God did not just create you to be in the kitchen only. And maybe he did, right? To be in the kitchen.
Depending.
Yes,
depending. It's true.
But you have to go through that process of figuring out, what purpose do I have? Otherwise, people will tell you who you are and what you are, and you will follow that. And by the time you get to your sunset years, you'll be so resentful and so bitter. And you'll be like, why am I living this life like this? So, I mean, we know purpose is important, right? It's very important, and we definitely have to get ourselves into that process of finding out who we are, whether it's through reading books, whether it's through programs. And we have so many programs, and you're actually running a program right now for women to find their purpose. So why would you say it is important, right? I mean, I can find my purpose and I'm okay, I'm living my life and I'm good. But why is it important? Is there a reason why I really need to find this purpose? Or it's just for, like any other thing, like going to school and finishing school and then graduating? Why is purpose important?
Because like we said, when we don't understand the reason why anything exists, abuse is inevitable, even self-abuse. Even self-abuse. The reason why sometimes we give certain people access beyond what they ought to have is because they don't understand who we are.
Wow.
Because when you understand who you are, you'll be like, I see you a million miles. I see you from afar, and I'm creating distance. You cannot have access. You can't destroy this thing I've been building for God knows how long. It's taken so long for God to get me here. You can't destroy me within a day. But when I don't understand my value, anything goes. Kujeni tu nyinyi wote, because perhaps, I'll find value in hanging around you. But if I know who I am, if I have to go solo, it's fine. There's a confidence that comes from knowing whose you are first and who you are second. So when I understand who I am, and when I understand whose I am. Why do I say that? I say that because, like we've said in previous episodes and on previous platforms, or on other platforms, there may be seasons where I'm going through a transition and things look so hazy. And I don't understand what's really is happening. For example, let's say I was building a business and then it shuts down, and then maybe I can't pay my bills. Let's say, for example, I have to move back home. If I anchor my identity simply on the things I've been building, I can fall apart. But when I know whose I am, even in dark seasons, I will not fall apart. Because I am first God's daughter before I am an entrepreneur, before I'm a speaker, before I'm an author. So I go back to relationship, anchor it there while I'm still figuring out, okay, God, is there a reason why this is happening? And what do I do about it? But if I make myself synonymous with things I do, when they fall apart in certain seasons, then I can fall apart. You see, so first I anchor myself on whose I am, and then I focus on why I'm here. Why? I don't want to get to 115 and be like, hiyo miaka imeenda haraka. Like those years have just rushed by so quick. I know I could have done more, but I was afraid. I wish I tried this. I wish I tried that. That time my body can't. It's giving in. I'm looking at my grandkids and I'm just thinking, man, maybe even you could have become so much more if I dared to become more. So my choices have also affected you negatively. So the reason why you must know is so that life makes sense. And like you said, sometimes we complicate this thing because building the purpose journey is about the small, seemingly small habits we have every day. You see, so for example, we'll say we'll have a shoot once in 2 weeks. Why? Because this is information is important for the kind of journey that we have with God. That's just an example. So I could say every week I'll write something, even if it's an article 3 times a week or daily. Those habits are what eventually build up to whatever it is that God wants me to become. So it's the seemingly small thing. It's not tomorrow I'll wake up and I'm on CNN. It's not all that. It's the seemingly, there's this book written by James Clear, Atomic Habits. And it's about the concept of how the small habits we build make us. We don't just arrive one day. It's those small steps that bleed into those destinations that God has for you. Whether you ever end up in the limelight or not is not the point. The point is, I did what He designed me to do. And there's a fulfillment that comes with that. With just knowing that you're doing, and you can feel it. I'm doing what He wired me to do, despite the challenges, and some days you may feel discouraged because you feel like you're trying so much and you're not getting as much in return in terms of the output in life, but you keep moving, but there's a certain sense of satisfaction as opposed to, you could be doing more, but the reason why you're not is fear. Fear of what people will think, fear of failure, what if this doesn't work?
I love what you've just shared. Fear is what make a lot of people not start. And I mean, again, we're bringing other conversations into play, but all this encompasses what purpose is, right? And on part 2 of this conversation, we'll talk about the painful parts, because purpose is a journey of pain, and not pain for, bleeding or too painful that you cannot rise up and walk again. And one thing that I normally say, and obviously this is a statement that has been said repeatedly, is there's no greatness that does not come with pain. Everyone that you know that is great, whether it's Oprah or Tyler Perry or I don't know who you think is great, look back at their journey. There is a story of pain. So join us for part 2 as we talk about purpose and pain. Looking forward to seeing you there.